aggressive. Next, I don't think she'll be able to take it. It will overwhelm her. That's another reason why we've heard why middle leaders avoid these conversations. Another, you don't have the energy. You're exhausted. It could be home life. It could be your classes. You just don't have the energy right now. You just can't figure it out right now, the battle, what they're trying to do. What is the battle? What is the conflict? They're a really nice person. They're just kind, but I know they're not doing their job. And then lastly, being a middle leader, especially those who've moved up from within their school, and it's okay. I want people to like me. I want people to respect me, but being nice and respected are two different things. So how do you move forward when sometimes these are some of the issues we feel when working with? So I want to share with you, and I do the Building and Leading Team course, and last week we started talking about reasons why people are at times aggressive, or at times within your team, someone who might have been your colleague is suddenly behaving differently. And I share this with, Megan has already seen this, but some of you haven't. And I got this from an amazing woman. Her name is Bambi Betts, and she simplified it for me quite easily, and I was quite impressed. And she mentioned that the first reason why people act the way they do is they just don't get it. It could be a new program. It could be a new platform. They just don't get it. So therefore, the frustration is being put towards you. You're that sounding board. They just don't get it. Another is, I just don't like it. The person just doesn't like what's going on. It's not about not getting it. They just don't like it. They like, for example, doing AP. They don't want to go to IB. And the last one, which might resonate, is, I don't like you. And that's hard to take as a middle leader, because you're like, wait a minute, we work together. Just because I became a middle leader doesn't mean you don't like me anymore. So what is one approach? And this is what our goal is today, is to have one takeaway that you can have today, and you're going to talk with one another within your groups about this. It's the idea of having a third data point when you're working with, now you guys can unmute if you want. Does anybody know what a third data point, what that refers to? And please unmute if you want, and you can just go right out there. Is one approach in terms of tackling difficult conversations. Okay, I'll tell you, because you look so excited. Thank you. I love that. I got Kira, she just was like, yes, I like that idea. A third data point refers to having a piece of evidence that is not about you and it's not about your colleague. I'll give an example. A third data point is sometimes could be the norms of your meeting. Teams should have norms that are agreed upon by your team. So if someone has violated one of those norms, when you meet with them, it's not like saying, I don't like the way you talk. It's not about I. I is not part of that conversation. It's having those norms, sitting with your person, and it's not about me talking about you, you talking about me. This is the third data point. 1, 2, 3. We agreed as a team that we would arrive on time for our meetings, and for the last 3 meetings, you've been late. It's not about me picking on you or you're saying I don't like you. This was a data point, and this becomes somewhat neutral because it's not about you and it's not about the person. It's about an agreement, and it's about the organization. Another data point could be a job description. When I worked with the Building and Leading teams, one of the first things I said to them is, raise your hand if when you started off as a middle leader, you shared your job description. And people are like, why would I do that? Because your team needs to know what your roles and responsibilities are. So if someone says, wait a minute, Julie, why are you doing this? And you're like, well, remember, those are one of my roles and responsibilities. My organization has said, this is what my job is. So that's why, and we talked, it starts with that third data point. Another could be strategic planning. A new staff member comes in, they weren't there before, and they said, well, why do we have to develop a virtual grade book? Well, last year, we already put in our strategic plans that it was planned for. It's not your own personal initiative. It's something that's becoming part of your school. Another third data point, your staff handbook. Are there protocols in terms of arrival, in terms of common assessments? For example, when I was an assistant principal, we actually had a procedure about common assessments and how many to have. So no group, like 6th grade social studies, couldn't say, we're not doing any common assessments for this unit. No. It's in the handbook. So it's not you having to fight that battle. Think about your school goals and think about even accreditation, that this was a recommendation in terms of what your area of the school had to do. Does that give you a little better insight about third data points? Yes? We're okay? All right. I'm going to stop talking because you now need to get together and think about only third data points. Have you tried any of these and they were true? But you said, oh my God, Nancy, I've used norms and it worked. Or what was totally new for you right now that you were like, I never even thought that if I'm having a conflict is actually start with data, a third data point. Or what would be your next? Remember, the objective of these groups is when you leave here today, you can do something tomorrow. What would be your takeaway? So what we're going to do is we're going to let you talk for a good 10 minutes, maybe even 13 to see, because we want you to think about these 3 prompts, go through each one. We're going to have smaller groups. This prompt is also in the folder. So you see that little logo? Those questions are in the shared folder for October. I don't know if you remember, we had that, I organized each month with your takeaways and everything we're doing for the session. So it's in the October if you forget what you're going to be talking to your people about. So how are you feeling so far? Give me a smile, you're moving. Yeah, I got thumbs up. Yay, okay. So we're going to put you into groups. Please, when you go into the breakout rooms, just out of respect, we are going to put our camera on. And then when you come back to the big room, you can put your camera off. I understand you don't want to be on all the time. So what we're going to do is, let's see, we're going to go into groups about 3. Hello, hello. Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming back. Here's the folder, just in case someone was asking. Okay, so who would like to share anything that from any group, something that when we talked about the idea of implementation, or it was something new, or you say, Nancy, I've tried this and it actually worked. Any of those 3s, you can just unmute yourself, go for it. Let's see what you have. And don't be shy, because I've been talking too much already. All right, just unmute yourself. Go for it. Yes, Carrie.
So last Leadership Cafe, we talked a little bit about sharing the job description.
Yes.
And I think that's been really, really interesting because I've read so carefully my job description the last couple of weeks. And I told my team I'm going to share it with the idea that we're all clear what my role is. Mm-hmm. So I think it was a really good, it put me in a totally different thought perspective and made me very carefully read that job description. What exactly does this word mean? Am I doing this point carefully? Have I developed this bullet point and not, all of those things I've really been thoughtful about.
Okay, Carrie, everyone unmute yourselves right now. This is a big round of applause. Okay, unmute, and go, yay, Carrie!
Yay, Carrie!
Oh, how did it feel to read your job description? Because usually when we get a job, we're so excited we get it and we just sign off on it. How did that feel, Carrie, when you were reading it? Like, was I doing what was the roles and responsibility? How did that feel?
So the things I thought confidently that I was doing, I've actually started to question. And some of the things that I never thought about, I'm really starting to stir in my head, how can I make this better? Or how can I enhance this? Because your job in your head and what you think your job is, and then the job description can be actually slightly different if you're not careful. Especially because I think you look to other leaders in the school. Oh, this is what they're doing. Oh, I guess I should be doing that.
Carrie, this. So you almost gave my perfect segue to the next section. So I'm not going to go there yet, but you absolutely set the tone. And you know, I heard one school do this is that they actually unpacked their job description. All the middle leaders did it first together. So that when they did go out to all their teams, there was one voice. And I thought that was very powerful. So you didn't have whoever was the grade 3 leader and the grade 4 leader having two different interpretations of the same document. And I thought that was really powerful. So thank you. That was a great thing that you tried and it was true. Love it. How about something that was new that you were like, oh, never thought of that. That might work. Anybody want to share? I'm okay in waiting time. What are you supposed to count to 10? 1.
I'll share.
It works.
I was never really thought about using like what do we call it? Third data point before when I'm having the difficult conversations with my colleagues to help build their respect and to take it off me versus them or the other way around. So for me, it was kind of like a little aha moment. So I've written them all down and I'm going to start using them now. I'm going to go to my job description. I'm going to look at it. I'm going to unpack it. And maybe in our meetings after our holidays, it's going to be part of my redo with making my norms in the meetings. So
Brilliant.
Great courage there, Megan. That's powerful. Really, also the idea of the norms and revisiting those. Norms is not anything that's new, by the way. You know,
I know it's new for me as a leader to implement them and create them. So I'm looking forward to it.
I mean, that's one thing, Megan, you said so beautifully. You know, just to revisit, that's some people, they make norms at the start of the school year in August when everyone's fresh. And then when it comes to like January, December, or, you know, everyone's tired, is to revisit them. Well, round of applause for Megan. Yay! We love this celebration, affirmation. We need them. And what is next? Is anybody thinking of something? I know we've already actually heard it, that they will do starting tomorrow or coming soon. Anybody have to share? I will do my waiting time.
Can I share again?
Go for it.
It's not what I'm going to do next, but it's what I did last week from our course. We took our meeting out of school last week because I realized when we were talking that I need to go back to forming our team. So we went to a cafe down the road and we got all the nitty gritty out and we spent time just socializing over tea and cake and like rebonding so that we can move towards creating norms and creating a more happy atmosphere within our team.
Megan, we're going to start teaching the course together. I need you. We're going to do it together because we're doing the Building and Leading Teams course. And have anybody ever heard of the Tuckman model? Tuckman, it's from 1965. I was born in 64, so don't say it was old. No one can say that. But Tuckman model talks about the progress or evolution of teams. And the first one is called norming. And norming is when everyone's really nice to each other. You're starting to get to know each other. And there is very little friction. Then you go into storming, where the honeymoon period is over. And there is a little bit of battle in terms of hierarchy, in terms of who has the power. And then from storming, you then move to performing. But you have to ensure that the leader has specific skills to address each one of these stages. If not, you would not lead to performing, which is the idea that your team is efficient and making impact on student learning and teacher practice. So it's something we've been talking about with the Building and Leading team course. So I hope you were able to get something from this little section here, but Carrie, you absolutely, what you said was share with what we're moving into for our last section is really the idea of those leadership skills. And what are they? So this is a great book. I absolutely love The Positive Leader. But what I found kind of depressing is when you look, the research states they have over 850 definitions of leadership. 850. Even try Google leadership. It's crazy. And I guess the first question is, how does your school define leadership? So if a new leader came to your school, where could they find that documentation or your leadership standards? Are you appreciative? Are you cooperative? What type of leadership? Michael Fullen has a wheel of 6. Doug Reeve has another set of skills of different types of leadership. What is your, and where could a new leader, I've just been hired to be the assistant principal at the school. Where do I find out what your learning organization defines as leadership? And this is actually one of the most challenging when coming to the culture of a school. Now, what I found is that, and I think, Carrie, you actually said it really well, you were looking at other leaders to see what they were doing. So I guess I'm asking you right now, think of current leaders that you either have in your school right now or leaders you've worked in the past. No names, because we know as soon as you say some name, then we go, I work with them in Copenhagen. We don't do that here, right? I love it. Claudia's laughing, she knows. Reflect on his or her skills. What made things work? What had a negative effect? Okay, what made things work and what had a negative effect? And what we're going to do now is, I want to know your thoughts on that. I just want you to talk to one another about those traits. And if you notice, in the chat, I put the link to the Google folder. And I'm just going to make sure you guys have seen the Google folder. And there is let me just put it here. And the Google folder, by the way, has lots of fun things in there. So when you look at the Google folder, this is everything we did in September. Okay. And then you go back, this is October. So October links, breakout room, question board. So now we're going to go to the October links. And now you're going to the link where it says breakout rooms. And would everybody click on that Jamboard site? And you should get this. Are we okay with that? We have one person in, so I know it's working. So what you're going to do is, before you leave, we're going to have a little bit, we're going to have less than 10 minutes. We're only going to have maybe 6 minutes because I want to bring you back. The first thing you're going to do is think about the prompt I gave you. What are the skills that made things work and didn't work? But don't share them. I want you to actually go in and say nothing to each other. Please say hello, be polite. But all I want you to do is think about what skills, and those who aren't familiar with Jamboard, all you do is you click, oops, if I went too quickly, sorry. You click on this little Post-it note and you can write things that worked was clear communication. I save. And now I'm going to keep that there. What really worked with one leader, and all I want you to do right now for the first 3 minutes, and we're going to tell you what to do in the chat, for the first 3 minutes is do it by yourself. You go into a breakout room and you are just literally putting those skills out there. And then when we say 3 minutes have passed, we want you to start shifting them to ones that are similar. We're going to brainstorm. So this is called generate, and then you're going to sort. And let's see what comes up, okay? You won't have enough time. That's okay. We just want to look for trends because I know it's almost, it's 15 minutes too. So we're really going to do maybe 7 minutes, 3.5. So the first 3 minutes is generate. The second, when we put in the chat, sort. Then you start sorting, and that's when you talk to one another. But for the first 3 minutes, you don't talk, but you can say hello to each other. Do we have an idea what we're doing? Yes. And the prompt was, if I go back, think of leaders, reflect and made things work and didn't work. So, Abby, are we ready?
Yep.
We're going to do 3 breakout rooms. Or we're going to do 7 minutes.
Okay,
And
okay.
for the first 3:30, they're working quietly. And for the last 3:30, they're going to talk to one another and start sorting their ideas on each side. Is everyone good? All right, go for it. We'll see you in 7 minutes. Thank you for coming back. Okay, let's see what we have here. Let's go to, I'm going to wait for everyone to come back. We have one room that's not back yet. Okay, so this group, I don't know why this keeps on moving. So breakout room 1, anybody have anything to share about, we have about trends and patterns or groups? One person from breakout room 1, please. Unmute and tell us what was your conversation like in terms of sorting. Breakout room 1, please. We have, wow, these are great. So who's in breakout room 1? Where are you? Somebody had to be in breakout room 1. Yeah. Oh, Megan's again. Come on. Where's Julie? She's having tea. Come on, Julie. Julie, what room were you in?
I was in 2.
Okay, you're definitely talking for 2. Who's in 1? Was Nita or who else who was in 1? Claudia, were you in 1?
Ian, I think.
I have no idea which room I was with.
I was in with Megan, so if Megan was in 1, I was in 1 also.
Okay, Ian, you're going for us. Tell us about that conversation.
We didn't get to a conversation. We were adding our bits and pieces. However, I will say, just to save our butts and pretend like we had a conversation.
Okay, that's good. I like that.
There's what I find interesting is it's an obvious dynamic between communication on
Yes.
right versus left. There's an obvious, all of the bad things about communication are negative, all of the good things about communication are positive, and it seems to be overwhelmingly, you can almost connect everything back to some form of communication, either how you communicate, what you communicate, or where you're communicating your ideas, and doing that clearly in a justified manner.
Absolutely. It's, I always talk about it. You said it so well, Ian. It's being transparent. It's being documented. It's being clear. It's that consistency. So truly, this is one area that your group causes one of the greatest conflicts when it comes to leadership styles, which are negative. Thank you so much, Ian, so much for sharing. Then we have group 2. Anybody from breakout room 2? No, Julie, you were in 2.
Yes, I was in 2.
Julie.
Well, we try to sort them out, but I would say the communication, yes, but I mean, not only like the spoken communication, but the writing one as well in terms of emails.
Right.
I mean, it's just like something very important nowadays, because we just like write everything, and some of the things this is what we expect from the kids, some of them. So I would say why leadership, is not like doing it at the same time. You just like lead by example.
Exactly. I love the idea. Just walk down the hallway, then send the email. And it goes back to what Ian was saying. It is communication. It is building, making people feel valued and respected. Thank you so much, Julie. That was great of you. And then we have, group 3, very high achievers, group 3. Look at this, arrows and everything. So who is in group 3, please? Breakout room 3. Do we have Nilda? Who was in group 3?
I was in group 3, Nancy, but I didn't actually add those comments. We were just chatting all the way, and then Jim was the one writing and creating the beautiful diagram, because I'm on my phone actually. So Jim, go ahead.
All right. Similar to Ian, I was starting to trace and the thought of the idea of the really so I didn't actually say much. It was mostly like Claudia Nita that put in the input, and I started asking myself, how do I organize this and what does it mean? And I started to recognize how much communication was demonstrating a lot of the other skills that we were talking about. Great communication is going to give you the sense of empathy and going to grease the wheels for delegation, let's say. And then terrible communication is doing the opposite of that. And so I was finding this common thread there.
Well done. Thank you, Jim. Here's a thought. Can you imagine doing this with your own team? You create your own data point. So now you bring this back to the team and you talk about what makes things work for your team and what doesn't. Then where there is an occasion where there's a conflict, you actually go back to a set of agreements that you said, this is what makes an effective team in terms of what works and doesn't work. So again, it's not about going back to you. You have evidence that team collaborated. Do you see how this connects now to a third data point? You have an example, just doing this with your team. So before we go, I was just thinking, how often do you think about the type of behaviors that you're exhibiting as a leader? You just had 3 slides of what is effective and doesn't work. And to ensure that you're modeling those behaviors. Now the best is, imagine doing this exercise with your team and you ask your team, why don't we strive for this in terms of how we connect with one-on-one and collaborate with each other? It was their ideas. It wasn't you coming in saying, this is how we are going to be. You got the collective wisdom of your team, and this is now a third data point. So I just showed you a strategy that you can use to create your own data point with your team. Because one way, the most important thing is these behaviors always go back to our kids. And I don't know if you ever read this, I love this one quote about the strong link between how teachers are treated by their leaders and how these teachers subsequently behave towards their students. There's a great book, Middle Leadership by Bill Lau, that talks all about this. And doesn't it make sense though? It just makes common sense in terms of those type of relationships. So before we go, I just want to say that remember that you're not alone in middle leadership, that we do have that beautiful list of all those people who said, I can help you, but there's also the ECIS mentorship program where you can go online, and I don't know if you've seen the platform yet, but it's brilliant. And I have been mentored where I just needed help with, I had an issue and I just needed help with this one situation. And I just reached out saying, I'm looking for someone to help me with this. And I was able to get a connection. I've also been able to do it for somebody else. They were having a problem with their team. And if you go here, you register and it's free. So if you want to make these connections, this is one of the best. And I know Sarah is on there as well. Sarah is also mentee mentor. So if you ever need any help, she's head of professional learning for ECIS. Use these platforms in terms of building our capacity as middle leaders. Truly, it's so powerful. I've met wonderful people just by this connection. So I really, really highly, the last thing is, Megan is in my class. We're doing a middle leaders course and she's fabulous. We have 35 people in this one course, building and leading teams. Think about what else is coming up. If you're looking at that, we have ones in assessment. Jim, what is yours that you're doing soon?
Yeah, I do one on the best way to describe it is solving major problems and planning those out. That's probably my favorite way to look at it. Yeah.
So definitely to look at.
November.
And lastly, before we go, I know people think this is hokey, but I have to do it. It's me. I am cheesy. Anybody who knows it, I'm from New York, I'm cheesy. So that's me. I believe in that we need to have some type of exit to say goodbye. First of all, you shared, I hope you had a takeaway, because I do believe in transformative learning, that when we meet in our learning, we should connect with our head, our heart, and our hands. The heart, we're a community, our head is our learning, and now our hands. So everybody hands up. You know me, I gotta do this. I'm hokey. On the count of 3, we're doing a high five. 1, 2, 3, high five. We're doing it again. 1, 2, 3, high five. You have been amazing. It's 7 o'clock. You stayed up, which big hugs to you all. Jim, I believe you're doing the next session in November.
Yes, I'll be hosting this November 29th, following that design thinking, solving big problems course that I have. So if you do the course, the wrap up session, and yeah, November 29th, come on around.
Guys,
if you don't do the course, come anyway, right?
exactly.
Yes,
Anyway,
please.
Everybody can come.
you guys,
Yeah.
thank you for your time. It's a privilege. We know you're tired. We've worked all day. Now it's time to go into yoga pants, and that's what I need to do right now. So everyone, have a good evening. Big hugs to you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you so
Nancy.
much.
Absolutely brilliant.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank
Don't
you.
forget those takeaways. You got big takeaways
Bye-bye.
today.
Thank
Use
you.
that Jamboard. Bye,
Bye.
everyone. Have a good night. Abby, you're a rock star. Thank you, girl.